Hello everyone, I'm Riya Pahuja from etcio.com. Welcome you all to the webinar, Make Your Mission Critical Systems Resilient with the Right Solutions. Enterprises are modernizing mission critical database environments, achieving real-time analytics, and accelerating discovery with HPE Mission Critical Solutions. In this webinar today, organized by etcio.com and HPE, will demonstrate an overview of the system's unique architecture, extraordinary scale-up capacity, and extreme RAS, and how they're empowering businesses to maximize value from traditional and in-memory databases such as SAP HANA, Oracle, SQL Server, and helping scientists tackle HPC workloads holistically. For this very topical discussion, we have with us an industry leader, Pankaj Ghai, Technology Architect, Mission Critical Solutions, HPE. A very warm welcome, sir.
Hi, good evening, Riya.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, and good evening to all my customers.
Sure. So before we deep dive into the discussion, I would like to inform all my attendees that they can drop in their queries and questions in the box provided. We will take all the questions in the end in our Q&A round. Over to you, sir. Please take the control forward.
Okay, thanks, Riya, and good evening once again, everyone. Thanks for joining in. So as Riya mentioned, we are going to talk about mission critical systems and how they make your solutions resilient, and how HP delivers these mission critical solutions for your applications. I'm Pankaj Ghai. I'm part of the mission critical solutions team. I'm a technology architect with HP Enterprise India. So key thing that we always talk of is that today customer experience has become a new battleground. That's where all our customers, or maybe your customers or your competitors, they compete, and how your customers access your or experience you in a digital way or in an online way. And that's how digital transformation is going to separate winners from losers. What is important is that we need to modernize our applications, because the new set of methods that are built into the applications allow us to access all sort of data, whether it is coming from our business systems or whether it is coming from our OT systems. Typically, the data that is coming from our online systems, our IoT devices, and then we want to channelize that data and extract more knowledge and information about our customers. And this becomes pretty difficult with the legacy setups that some of us have within our data centers. Typically, we are very slow to upgrade and migrate these mission critical systems, because a lot of energy and effort has been spent by us to stabilize them, to get the right kind of performances. And therefore, this is always a catch-22 situation for us, that when we need to do digital transformation, and to do digital transformation, we actually need IT transformation. So what are the typical challenges when we are going ahead with IT transformation? The first and the foremost is whether you want to go to the cloud, or can I get the cloud-like experience within my own data center? And that is the typical and dilemma that customers today have, whether to look at on-prem solutions or off-prem solutions or hybrid solutions. We also understand that a lot of these legacy systems, they have not been upgraded continuously, and therefore they end up being underutilized or overutilized either ways, and then some of the license costs are going up. We are not able to upgrade, and so you actually end up having systems which are very costly, and they're underperforming, and they become basically a bottleneck for our IT transformation projects. And one of the platform that obviously your heart of your IT setup are these monolithic servers, these proprietary servers, which form the core of our systems or data center. And there is definitely a need to look at how the new technologies can be utilized. Customers today want to look at the database sprawl and want to optimize by consolidation, by virtualization. And not only that, they are also looking at how they can increase the data moving out of these systems and moving into these systems, so that they can take full benefit of the technologies like AI, machine learning, and so on and so forth. So what is the right platform for this is obviously HPE has been working on in this domain for a long period of time, and we have experience around SAP HANA solutions, Oracle solutions, Microsoft SQL solutions, and with our acquisitions that we went through with the SGI and Cray, we've got a lot of footprint into the HPC domain also. So we understand that what we need today is a platform which is a modular platform. It need not be a monolithic box which increases your cost on day one. Rather, what you want to do is you want to start small, grow big, and that's where our SUPERDOME Flex family of products typically come in. So what we have on the left-hand side is our SUPERDOME Flex, which is our mainstay workhorse for our for all these large, extreme RAS, unbound I/O, typically database applications, your core banking solutions, and offering you up to a 32 socket scalability of Intel Xeon scalable processors. To back it up, there's another new platform that we have recently announced that is called the HP SUPERDOME Flex 280. For this platform, the shipments are only going to start in Q4 2020 calendar year. So again, it's a modular building block. The key thing to remember here is that we are very, very focused on getting extreme RAS, lot of I/O, and lots of memory. So as we will proceed and we'll see in this presentation, the memory is becoming a key to all the technologies or all the new set of applications that are getting delivered in the modern environments. So what is SUPERDOME Flex? Flex 280R, it's a modular machine typically targeted at a 4-socket to 8-socket segment. As you saw, the SUPERDOME Flex can go up to 32 sockets. So it is again modular, but it's not exactly targeted at a 2-socket kind of an entry-level mission critical RAS kind of market, whereas this SUPERDOME Flex 280 offers a lot of compute. Plus, there's a lot of additional features that we have got built into the SUPERDOME Flex architecture in terms of firmware attacks or malware attacks, and support for a lot of GPUs and a lot of memory in the system so that you can run your in-memory databases. And that's where we are calling it as a service building block for powering your digital transformation platforms with support from and certification from Red Hat, SUSE, Windows, VMware, Oracle Linux. We have a platform which can offer you all kind of the varied kind of requirements that you have around your high performance databases. So key in any mission critical environment or in any resilient framework is obviously how do you guard against downtime. And that's where HP's unique capabilities and the experience that we have built in our SUPERDOME product line for the last 20 years. The product was launched in the early years of 2000, and we have been continuously refining it initially with our HP UX and HP Integrity platform, and then we migrated the product lines into our x86 based SUPERDOME Flex and SUPERDOME X architectures. So what is key is obviously redundant components, advanced memory and I/O resiliency, firmware first architecture. Now that's unique about HP's firmware first architecture is we don't let OS decide what is going to happen with the server. We basically trap all the errors before it reaches the before they reach the OS. And it's important because when you are letting the OS get access to the error, there is a probability that the OS may actually go into a hang state and the server can crash. So because we understand the server, and OS in our case in the new age is obviously an open source OS, stuff like Red Hat and SUSE. So we work on the architecture of the server itself and trap these errors to the firmware first architecture. And then what we also need is that how do you do an online repair and optimization? So it's a whole process of error identification, reporting, and recovery. And to help and support that, we have got each of these servers built with an analysis engine there itself, so that you don't have to actually send the logs to your backend systems or the OEM, and where the OEM specialists can actually go through the logs and do the analysis for you. And obviously, most of that is post facto and reactive. What we today need is proactive. So when you have an analysis engine built into your server or into your system itself, what you get is an online continuous analysis of your logs, the error identification, reporting, and then you can trigger the recovery process based on the analysis engine. Okay. To support that, we've also built a lot of functionality into the open source operating systems, and that capability obviously is delivered to the open source framework. But HP, what it does is that it uses these key engines in the operating systems to better tune the performance, better tune the reliability of the operating systems. To top it up, we've got a very powerful portfolio of high availability solutions, which is coming under the HP Service Guard for Linux. So as some of our HP's existing customers know, HP Service Guard is a very powerful high availability solution for our Unix-based systems, and the same has been migrated into the x86-based systems. The first launch of this product was actually way before anybody thought of releasing a mission-critical high-end clustering solution for open source products. So the way back in 2010 itself, we released the products, and we've been working on this product since then. To top it up, we've got the right kind of services, and we've got the right kind of partnerships and expertise. So key here is that when we are presenting our entire solution to you, we are just not looking at the server itself, but we are looking at the server plus the operating system plus the clustering solution, and plus the expertise and the partnership with our application vendors, with your application vendors. So just for example, if you look at SAP HANA, we have got the Center of Excellence, which is our COE, which does this backend partnership work with SAP for fine tuning and delivering the HANA solutions. Just a summary of what are the kind of RAS features that are very unique to our SUPERDOME Plex platform. So these can be divided into chassis level features, the processor RAS coverage, the memory features. The key thing is that some of these have actually got embedded now in the x86 Intel Xeon Scalable processor itself. So these features are available in the Intel Xeon processor, but HP has the unique ability to actually tap into these processors because of our background and our work that we have done with our HP Integrity Unix-based systems running Itanium 9100 and 97, 95, 96, 9700 series processors. We have this unique capability to actually tap into the high level of processor RAS available in Intel Xeon processors and use it to actually diagnose and do self-healing and similar activities. And the same thing can actually be tapped into the memory functionality that is available in these systems. So just to summarize, a typical x86 system may not or generally would not have these kind of RAS features that we are talking of, stuff like firmware first, stuff like automatic error logging, self-healing, deconfiguration or disabling of failed FRUs, in which case when a system actually fails, you can read the analysis engine reboots the system around the failed FRUs. Things like onboard analyzer, automatic restart and deconfig and self-healing, and many of the other things related to the I/O and to the memory resiliency of the systems. As I said, Service Guard for Linux is our key platform, and we've built good engineering work. We've done good engineering work around the SAP solutions, Oracle solutions, SQL Server, and even IBM DB2. And we've got some very good references around the globe running these applications and databases on HP, the Service Guard for Linux as a platform. So key message here is that we want to minimize the downtime and unplanned downtime, and we want to completely eliminate the planned downtime. Most of the HA and DR operations have to be unattended, and at the same time, we have to preserve the data integrity so that you don't lose data during the process of failover or during the process of migration from server 1 to the server 2. And key message here is that has to have the application awareness. So whether it is SAP HANA or whether it is Oracle, see the database components and the application level components all need to get embedded into the service guard monitoring system, so that you are actually having an application level awareness and you are not having forced to log out your users every time there is a failover of your database. The users can go into a hang state for a short period of time, and then you complete the migration from one server to the other server. The other thing that we have very successfully worked on is use the database's native replication technology. Now, most of the time when we are talking of failovers and cluster solutions, we are always talking of doing a failover at the storage level, which means presenting the storage drives or the volumes from server 1 to the failover server 2. In that case, there are these are OEM specific, hardware vendor specific solutions. However, what we've also found out using whether we look at SAP HANA system replication or whether you look at Oracle's ODG, we can actually tap into these replication technologies which are actually bundled in their databases and fine-tune the failover process. And we have seen some very good results. Whenever you do that, you actually are able to recover in very short period of time, as short as about 20-30 seconds. If the complete failover process is handed over to the Oracle instance or the HANA instance on the secondary server, and then obviously whatever time it needs to start or build up takes that period. So key here is that using these application technologies, we have enhanced the availability of your platforms. So instead of, there was a strong movement going on earlier that let's have parallel systems wherein you can simultaneously access two systems and divide your workloads. That term things like application clusters or database clusters in like an RAC or a similar stuff from SAP HANA. These are obviously solutions from the application vendors, but they may cost you more and they may not deliver the kind of experience that you're looking at and the complexity that it brings with this whole setup. However, what HP has delivered is that within a 20-second period or a 30-second period, you are able to actually hand over the entire charge of the database from the primary to the secondary system, and that needs to be implemented through the database's native application technologies like ODG or SAP's SAP HANA system replication. And this actually delivers the database level consistency and also a fast restart. The other thing is obviously you can use this the HP Service Guard software to do the dual purpose of your HA system, which means that you can run development and QA environments on these secondary systems. And when the failover is triggered, automatically Service Guard will shut down the development and QA environments and move the production to the secondary machine. Okay, and ensuring the data integrity at all times, so there are no corruptions, and it is all application aware, so that the end users do not see or their operations are not disrupted. And finally, it's a unique patented technology from HP. I think very few OEMs will be able to match up this level of functionality that we offer in Service Guard for Linux. Another key area in these mission critical environments is they sit like an island in our data centers. And most of the customers that we have, they've got unified management strategy, they've got a unified system monitoring and management tools, right? But these mission critical servers, they sit like an island, an isolated island in our data centers, because they are proprietary based systems. They don't have they don't talk to the standard management tools or the monitoring tools, and that's where customers sometimes struggle to improve their experience, and they have to build double level of expertise within their organizations. Now with HP Superdome Flex platforms, what we've done is we've given customer choice. If you've got your own system, which is an open source management system based on Redfish plus OpenStack, we fully support that. You can just integrate these servers or these platforms into that system and manage it through them. And if on the other side of it, if you are looking at an HP platform, then HP's unified management platform, which is HP OneView, which can manage your server, storage, the composable infrastructures, your racks, networks. Now this HP OneView can also get integrated with the Superdome Flex platform and therefore give you a unique management experience, your unique support experience, and finally HP Sum, which is our update, the firmware update set of tools that we deliver under this portfolio. They can similarly be applied on the Superdome Flex platform. So when we are looking at the use cases for this platform, one of the key ones that comes to mind is obviously your massive migration that we had in our very premier customer in Indian Oil. They went for a massive migration from their Unix-based systems for their databases to SAP HANA, from an Oracle environment to SAP HANA environment. And their challenges, as you see, were the typical challenges that I've talked of. Their infrastructure was aging, they were underperforming, and being legacy infrastructure, the costs were higher. And obviously, the applications, as we discussed earlier, that we have to transform and we have to change the experience for our customers. We need to look at the new set of applications and need to redefine the legacy applications that we have in our data center. And in moving from the regular NetWeaver suite to the SAP HANA-based suite, Indian Oil has actually gone in for a major transformation, not only in their hardware infrastructure or a data center infrastructure, but also into their application and database layer. Some very key supporting words from Mr. Deepak Agarwal, who is the ED ICIS of Indian Oil. So as I said, they moved out of their aging infrastructure. What they went in for, about 40 odd Superdome Flex servers in various configurations with the HP's very powerful cloud-enabled 3-PAR persistent storage, HP Store Ones for backup. SAP HANA solutions have very unique backup requirements, and typically this is the very first implementation in India wherein you can actually do HANA backup on SAN. So HANA backups typically are done on LAN, going through the server using the backup software or a disk-to-disk based device. But what Indian Oil demanded, and actually HP was able to deliver to them, was SAN-based backups, which were actually offloading not only the storage, not only your compute nodes, but it was also offloading your the LAN that you had. Typically, SAP HANA sizes that we have of 12 TB, 16 TB, or 18 TB, and 24 TB would choke your LAN infrastructure if you're moving your entire backups through your LAN. Okay? And as I said, what we delivered to them was the ServiceGuard for Linux high availability solution and HP's Recovery Manager Central for backup. That is our backup solution, which gets directly integrated from stored ones to 3-PAR and offloads your compute nodes and offloads your LAN also. So key outcomes were massive migration was completed in 4 months. That's due to the unique capability that HP was able to bring to the table through its Center of Excellence for SAP HANA. More transaction, more invoices were generated within the time unit. Business reports, which were generated in 30 minutes compared to what it was 5 hours earlier, and many more such benefits that they saw. So as I said, the work that we have been doing in the SAP HANA space through our engineering centers and through our SUSE Linux teams and through our COE, we have been actually rated as a premier vendor for the SAP HANA deployments. And we have, as of June 2019, we had 26 to 77,000 customers deployed on SAP HANA. And now we have actually got these deployment numbers increased to almost 35,000 as the new results are released by Gartner. We'll get the latest figures for this. Effectively, what it also shows is that almost 93% of SAP HANA deployments today are on x86. So that's again a very, very good a vote of confidence from the customers that HP's investments in the mission critical x86 space are paying off with the kind of deployments that we're seeing. Today we've got almost 40% market share for SAP HANA deployments. The other use case remains our key and premier market, which is the Oracle database. Oracle database still remains almost a major component of the total market share, and we've got almost 140,000 plus customers today on Oracle database. And these customers are obviously looking at various choices of doing data transformation. So one of the customers that I'm presenting here is a large European company where they had to go for the Oracle version upgrade from 11 to 12 because of the GDPR compliances that had kicked in EU. And this basically needed them to move from standard database to an encrypted database, which can lead to performance challenges. So they, in the process, they also actually did a U to L migration, which is Unix to Linux migration from the legacy platforms into the more open standard platforms from HP, which is HP Superdome Flex Server. So what they had earlier was HP's Superdome systems, HP Integrity Superdome systems with 3-part storage, 7400 series. Now this moved to a new platform running Linux with the HP Superdome Flex. As you can see from a large monolithic server, we were based on bladed architecture. We moved to a modular Flex architecture. We also ensured that by moving this to the new platform, we actually saved the Oracle costs for them. So whatever 48 cores that they were using on one single machine of proprietary or HP Integrity systems, needing almost 48 licenses, they moved to a 48 core Superdome Flex. Straight away, they saw 50% enhancement in performance, and they also saw 50% reduction in Oracle costs because the license costs came down by exactly 50% from the same number of cores. So it was a win-win for the customer, and not only they got enhanced performance, not only got a better and latest equipment in the tech refresh or running on the Red Hat flavor of Linux, but they also saved costs in terms of Oracle licenses. Effectively, the saving in the Oracle license cost eventually would actually pay up for the hardware itself. The third use case is around Microsoft Dynamics. So as I said, Microsoft as a database has picked up substantially over the last few years with the enhancements that have been coming in the Oracle, the data SQL 2016 and 2019. So this is a large environment wherein Burger King Russia had x86 systems which were not performing, again because of legacy application, legacy systems, and we might have then migrate to mission critical Microsoft environment using HP Superdome Flex servers. So it used to take almost 24 to 28 hours on the older platform to complete all the batch processing, right? Now this same thing is we are able to run in 6 hours. So that's a huge saving for the customer. And typically batch processes are critical, and if you are not able to complete them during the overnight period, your actual operations during the day will get impacted. And that's where the new platform has solved this challenge for them. So what we proposed to them was the Superdome Flex 8 socket systems with 6 terabyte of memory, and Microsoft Dynamics AX and SQL Server. As you know, SQL Server is based on the concept of HTAP, which is the high transaction analytical processing, which means that you can have a single database running your analytics and your OLTP work and the OLAP work, which is very similar to what SAP HANA does. And at the same time, it also helps us do in-memory databases. So you can actually use the 6 terabyte of memory to speed up the performance of your database in terms of both OLTP and OLAP systems. The another key area that has, as I said, with our acquisitions of each in the domain HPC domain from of SGI and CRE, we've got very good engineering skills in the HPC domains. And within the HPC domain, there is a very key segment which is called in-memory HPC. Now, in-memory HPC is probably a very small percentage of the overall HPC market, but what we see is that these are the solutions which can offer some very unique opportunities for customers. Stuff like real-time analytics, fraud prevention and detection, cybersecurity. So in most of the HPC scenarios, when you're not doing in-memory operations, you're actually not able to deliver the results in seconds. What you are basically looking at, as there is a fraud happening or as there is a cyber security threat happening, you should be able to detect that and take corrective measures before the threat actually hurts you as an organization. And this is generally and only possible whenever you go in for in-memory solutions. And to offer large in-memory databases, even the starting configuration for, let's say, a fraud prevention and a detection solution or a cybersecurity solution would be something like a 6 terabyte or a 12 terabyte memory, because there's the kind of huge databases that customers have when they want to analyze these online challenges that they have. And therefore, the HP SUPERDOME Flex platform, with offering up to 48 to 64 terabytes, is offering customers some very unique capabilities. So another example that I can share is that a large fat node environment is required for a genomic research, and this is where Japan's National Institute of Genetics actually went in for their 5th generation supercomputer using a large fat compute node in the middle with a 12 terabyte shared memory. And this really improves the performance of the overall system. Despite you having a large HPC environment with a lot of GPUs and stuff like that, you still need a large fat compute node in the middle to do the final assimilation of results and to ensure that the results are delivered without any hiccups. When we're talking of mission critical environments, when we are talking of databases, this is the new thing that we cannot skip, which is the HP's persistent memory portfolio. And this is where I think we are bringing in a lot of value to our customers in their real-time operations, in their unified operations of OLTP and OLAP. And therefore, I believe we will have, this is a path-breaking innovation that HP has released along with our partner Intel. So as you can see, we've got some very powerful and some very dense persistent memory kits available in our portfolio, starting from a basic standard 128 GB DIMM going from up to 256 and 512 GB. So this basically lets you use large in-memory compute, lot of, as I said, HTAP, real-time analytics. You can now populate all of your database inside the memory itself. So you don't have to wait and worry about whether your storage system is responding, whether your SAN is choked, or your investments in your SAN need to be upgraded. You can simply move into a mission critical solution with lots of persistent memory and build a system for a 6 terabyte or a 12 terabyte or maybe even 18 terabyte as Indian Oil did to see quick results on your all sort of operations, so both OLAP and OLTP. And in fact, you don't need to separate the two set of databases. You can have one single database and run both the operations together. So the advantage of persistent memory is that it resides in the memory. So which means that memory DIMMs 50% of the memory DIMMs can be swapped out from the DRAM to persistent memory. So you can swap out your DRAM and you can use the 50% of the DIMMs that are freed up using persistent memory. The key thing to remember here is that this persistent memory in a database mode uses something like an app direct mode, which means that Oracle and SAP both have to modify their database, how it works and operates, to take the benefit of persistent memory. And that's what they've done. So, and it's not something new. They did that. They were ready almost 3 years back when they released their latest version of databases. So what it does is that you can not only populate a lot of your database inside at a lower cost, because these persistent memory are delivered at lesser price points compared to your DRAMs, and they are also denser. So for the same CPU, you can actually populate more memory. Okay, and this allows you to put all your databases, and once the system reboots, or you want to take a maintenance reboot, or you see a failure, temporary failure, and the system restarts, the data is not wiped out. Your DRAM is not refreshed. What you actually, when you boot, the operating system boots up, the application boots up, the application will see the entire data sitting there in the persistent memory. So you don't lose the data which is sitting. So that's a very unique and a very important innovation that we are seeing in the database space. Not only it increases the performance of the system, not only it allows you to put a lot of database into your memory and get a cache-like performance, but it also ensures the availability of that database, see the consistency of that database by not refreshing or crashing when the system fails. This is one example of an Oracle environment where we were using a 4-socket system earlier. As you know, Oracle supports in-memory databases for OLAP operations. So you can actually populate your IM stores or column stores into the memory and run your operations for OLAP and analytics there in the memory itself. So in this environment, what we found out is that a 4-socket system with an X amount of memory can actually be delivered through a 2-socket system with persistent memory to meet up for the extra demand of capacity with higher density persistent memory. And for the same amount of memory, we saw almost 96% performance with half the compute. So effectively what it means is that sometimes your compute is not effectively utilized because you've got a powerful compute, you invested a lot of license costs into your CPUs and the cores that are delivered, but because of the lack of memory, you are not able to tap into the full power of those CPUs. With persistent memory, you are actually seeing almost 50% reduction in your license costs at the cost of just about 3 to 4% in performance. Okay? So this is a very unique and powerful value proposition that HP persistent memory brings to the table. In the SAP HANA space, again, as I said, SAP HANA, the memory sits into the database sits in the memory itself. So every time that you reboot, you have to actually populate your database from your SAN storage system. And this basically means is you need to do a build-up which can take almost up to 50 minutes, even when you use an SSD storage for a large data set of 6 terabytes. But in case you go in for a persistent memory, the data is never wiped out, the data is never refreshed. So what you see is the data is available whenever you reboot. So the application's restart time, which was earlier 50 minutes, is now available within a 4-minute period, right? And also because SAP HANA needs a lot of memory, so with persistent memory, you are able to reduce the footprint. Earlier, what you would need probably a 2-socket for a 3 terabyte system. Now in that 2-socket platform itself, you can deliver more than 4 to 6 terabytes, depending on the size of persistent memory that you choose. So these are some very powerful value propositions offered by the persistent memory and in-memory solutions that are available with the vendors. So as we talk of the consumption models, HP GreenLake becomes a very powerful offering because customers today, we all know that private clouds are not able to offer the kind of experience, the flexibility, the security, and the perception that the customers have around private clouds. is not something which is very fulfilling for customers, and therefore sometimes they go to the private cloud and then come back, and there's always this question of whether really the private cloud is the public cloud is the right way for us. So HP GreenLake offers a cloud-like experience to our customers. It is an on-prem solution. It can also be in unique scenarios hosted solution in a hosted data center. The key thing here is that it is pay per use. So as you use, it will grow, and it is managed by you. So and it's controlled by you. So we do offer management services, but our customer may still go ahead and manage most of the environment and build the management resources in-house. It's a self-service based system. You can scale up and scale down as is required. So as I said, as we customers migrate from the CapEx to GreenLake-based solutions on a pay-per-use model, there's almost 30% savings in the CapEx itself on day one, because most of the time you are eliminating the need for over provisioning, right? Then there is the deployment times are almost 65% shorter, because of the pay-per-use model. You are actually don't have to go and every time take approval, find budgets, and deliver these solutions, purchase orders, and hardware deliveries and installation. You actually save almost 65% of the time in this consumption model. And there's also 44% less time which is required to keep the system running, because the model is a standardized management model, and then so with the set of tools that have been built around it and proper backend ecosystem developed by HP, what customers have feel that they almost need 40% lesser administration time just to keep the system running. And effectively what you're doing is you're increasing the productivity of your IT team to work on innovation projects by almost 40% here. So this brings me to the end of my presentation and session. Over to you, Ria. You may look at more details for hpe.com/superdome, and you can follow us on social media at hpe_MCS, @hpe_HPC, and at _HP.next services. These are some key knowledge bases that are available on these sites. As a customer, you can access them and share your views or post your requirements there. Over to you, Ria.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for that wonderful and insightful presentation there and all the information that we got. Moving on to the Q&A round, sir, I once again request our attendees to drop in their questions. We will be taking them now. So going forward with the first question. How do you think, sir, HP's persistent memory solutions will impact the customer roadmaps for their database platforms?
So as I said, HP persistent memory solutions are basically very key in today's digital transformation projects, because you want to populate you want to work on all the data that you have, because there are a lot of data flow channels are coming in from IoT, from your websites, from your user experience centers, your CRM tools. This data needs to be processed in a homogeneous way, and also we need to process them in real time. Regularly, it has to be processed. It's not that you do this as a one-time activity. So persistent memory brings in the availability and lower costs. So you can have 12 TB systems or 24 terabyte systems or 6 terabyte systems at our price points, which are probably much lesser than what are available on DRAM-based systems. So this allows customers to actually roll out these projects more efficiently and save on their IT budgets, and at the same time deliver the kind of data inputs and analytical real-time and actionable intelligence that our management needs for their business operations.
Sure, sir. The next question is if you can elaborate on how HP's open systems give customers a choice over RISC proprietary systems.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Most of the customers have been looking at their mission critical environments and been investing a lot of their budgets in these proprietary platforms, which basically limit choice, and also they don't bring in the kind of innovation that you today need to address these new challenges of digital transformation. This not only increases their costs, but and lock-in also creates the challenges in terms of system administration capabilities, challenging in terms of integration in the management platforms, and challenges in terms of your license costs. So with the open source capability that we are offering in our mission critical platforms, we deliver same or higher level of RAS compared to what the proprietary risk-based platforms deliver, but at a much lesser TCO. So the key word here is the TCO of running a proprietary based system and TCO of running an open platform, which is much lower in our case.
Sure, sir. The next question here is, as per, there's a little context to this. As per Gartner's report, HP's HANA deployments market share is as high as the next 3 OEMs. What are the 3 things that you think we should remember before making a HANA HANA solution purchase?
Yeah, one of the key changes, as you see, is HANA is a mission critical environment, and most of the customers earlier they were running SAP on the proprietary platforms. So HANA becomes a good reference for customers to actually evaluate and get over this challenge of moving from proprietary platforms to open systems platform. Because of the unique requirement of the platform, hardware platform coming from one vendor, operating system coming from a second vendor, and then application coming from the third vendor, there are challenges when customers opt for these build do-it-yourself kind of systems, or what you call in SAP parlance, the TDI-based systems. The overall experience is difficult. The rollout projects are much delayed and longer. The performances are never sure. So what we deliver as an experience is an appliance-based experience or a converged system-based experience, offering not only pre-tested equipment, preloaded, pre-installed from factory, but also a center of excellence support, which delivers to customers an experience which is very similar to their mainframe class of systems that they would be running, wherein they get full support in terms of the hardware, the operating system, the database, and there is single throat to choke. And also there is a backend integration in terms of partnerships with these various vendors like SUSE or Red Hat or SAP. So you get not only get reactive support, which is quite efficient, but also a proactive support, wherein you can do the firmware upgrade, the security patches, which is today becoming a regular requirement at most of the customers, the version upgrades. As you know, the risks are higher in the market, and therefore you need to patch up your systems quite efficiently on a regular basis.
So the next question here is, what solution do you think is more suitable for hybrid cloud environment?
So hybrid cloud environment, immediately the thing in here is that you need to have first a unified management framework, right? So unless you have a management framework which is unified, which means that you have something like a storage, like a compute of an x86 or a mission critical compute, or maybe network, right? So unless you have that unified management framework, you would not be able to get that kind of hybrid experience. On top of it, what you also need is a composable environment. See, when you are talking of cloud, cloud offers a lot of composable features, wherein customers actually don't actually have to get into whether how do I configure the networks, or to configure the compute, or how do I configure my SANs or LANs or RAIDs, right? So what you need is basically a templatized approach, which means that you can have your expert team, a team of experts, or maybe some key system administrators from the network, storage, SAN and LAN and compute side, sitting and drafting one single template. That template can actually be rolled out to all the system administrators for their different departments. Now that template becomes a single reference for all deployments. So that templatized based approach which is a very powerful concept in a composable environment, is also critical. Once we are able to deliver both unified and the templatized approach, I think then you are ready for moving into a something like an hybrid kind of environment.
Sure, sir. The next question up here is, what are additional advantages of HP 3PAR as compared to HP blade servers?
HP, I lost you there.
I will repeat myself. What are additional advantages of HP 3PAR as compared to HP blade servers?
HP 3PAR is our HP's cloud-enabled storage platform, and HP Blade Servers is our compute platform. So as you know, there we have actually done a tech refresh for these platforms to keep them on ahead of the innovation curve. So HP Blade platforms have been transformed into the HP's new HP Synergy platform, which is the composable platform, as I talked of, having unified management. The management appliances are built into the chassis or the frame itself, and then you can compose your system using your templates, which are designed by one person. So you can have one key person or one key team to design those templates. HP 3PAR has been enhanced or refreshed by moving to a new set of highly available storage platform called HP Primera, and it offers a very high level of performances and management framework. Plus, it is very much compatible on the pay-per-use model. So key thing here is, whenever you're talking of hybrid or a cloud-like experience, pay-per-use model is critical for customers, and that's where I think the two new platforms, which is HP Primera, which is a tech refresh of the HP 3PAR, and HP Synergy, which is a tech refresh or innovation enhancement on HP Blade system, come into play and offer the value that customers are looking at. It's like getting your own private cloud setup without the negatives of a private cloud or a public cloud.
Sure, sir. Sir, we are getting a lot of questions on the persistent memory part. I would request you if we can throw some more color and maybe kindly elaborate the persistent memory part for our attendees here.
Yeah, so persistent memory is a innovation which has been delivered by Intel, and Intel actually has delivered version 1 already last year, and the version 2 is almost on the verge of getting released. So what it does is, because of the partnerships that Intel, HP, SAP, Oracle, and SQL, we have been jointly doing a fine-tuning of the systems. Customers today need those databases to perform at the speed of light. So they don't want to depend on a slower storage or a slower network to load the data, to offload the data, right? Because that takes a lot of time. And because they're looking at real-time analytics, they want to bring in the entire data into the server itself and churn that data for information. Okay? And this is only possible if you have lesser cost storage. The lesser cost storage, which is in our case is DRAM. So today I have to go and buy 24 terabytes of DRAM. It's going to cost me a huge amount of money, right? And it's also going to cost me a huge amount of license cost in terms of databases, because I need to at least have 32 more CPUs, each having some 24 core or 28 cores to deliver that kind of database size in a single system. So what persistent memory does is, it reduces not only the cost of DRAM storage by bringing in a persistent lower cost storage capacity sitting in the DIMM slots, but it also allows you to go for lesser number of CPUs. So it increases the CPU density by almost 2 to 4x. And that brings down your license costs on the databases. So this whole package package is a very powerful offering, and customers can do a complete churn of their database and derive all kind of information that they need for their business analytics and for helping the management take the right decisions. And as I said, this is a lower cost. It is also it brings in resilience into the whole setup, because the database never crashes even when the system is rebooted. So you can do more firmware updates, more patch application, more refreshes, more version upgrades. Okay, And using with in combination with ServiceGuard, which is our cluster solution, you can actually make this whole exercise a very painless exercise. You can do a lot of because we need to do firmware upgrades, we need to do security patches. It is earlier customers were not doing it even for a period of 3 years or 4 years, but today and they can't give you downtime. See, you as a customer, you can't give us downtime because that's running your mission critical application like a core banking solution or like an ERP. So whenever you have to go through this process, I think the persistent memory solutions will offer the kind of uh, experience and the flexibility that customers today need in this high performance world.
Sure, sir. The next question here, I guess the attendee has made it very direct for you. She asks, why should I select HPE SUPERDOME as compared to any other solution in the market? And while you do that, can you also throw light on the SAP deployment for the same?
Right. So as I said, HP SUPERDOME Flex has a lineage of HP's Integrity SUPERDOME, which is running very, very large core banking solutions and ERP solutions. And now customers have to transform from those proprietary platforms into the new open system platform, because open system platforms offer the kind of functionality and flexibility that customers today need in a cloud-enabled world. Right? They need to do consolidation. They have standardized on virtualization, and open standard system is the only thing that can do virtualization with VMware, right? You can't use a Unix-based virtualization in a VMware environment. So what we are talking here is that you have to deliver the kind of reliability in these systems. Intel CPUs are loaded with those reliability features, right? But then the ability to actually, or the engineering work that is required to tap into those features and to take the right corrective action and stabilize those operations for a mission critical environment needs years of research, which HP has been doing for the last 10 years because of our HP partnership with Intel through our HP integrated systems on Intel Itanium CPUs and now Intel's Xeon CPUs. So this whole ecosystem of a mission critical environment, the ability to offer the kind of security that we have in these hard systems, things like silicon root of trust or an embedded TPM chip, okay? The one thing we have always focused on is that there has to be an air gap which needs to be maintained or innovated in the platform. So you cannot let the operating system do the firmwares because operating systems are vulnerable to hacks, right? So you have to do a firmware solution which is different. So there has to be an air gap at multiple layers. Not only that, we also get into things like switching off a lot of CPU functionality, which is there for legacy systems in an Intel CPU, just to ensure that you reduce the number of updates and firmware patches that are required, because these legacy extensions that Intel offers in their CPUs are required from some customers, but they are not required for mission critical customers. So instead of letting them run and then coming up with patches and upgrades and firmware updates, we just simply block them and we don't use them. And we also don't see, another thing you have to remember is that today when the hackers may not even come from the operating system. They may come from your management controller. So whatever management chip that you have installed on your server, which comes default from the OEM, they can come through that route. So we have actually isolated that chip and ensured that it is not, even the management network doesn't get access to that chip. What we have put is called an embedded RMC or a separate RMC, which is a rack management console. And this separate chip gives access to the internet or to the outer world, because today customers are doing these management operations even on their mobile because of the mobile apps that we are offering with our HP One U and some of the other platforms. So you can, once you're coming through internet, I cannot give direct access of this management chip, which is on the server, to the outside world. So because then that brings in a lot of risk, and there is a much lesser security that gets built into these management chips, right? So when we are giving embedded RMC or a separate RMC for managing the servers, we actually offer this unique capability that there is a complete air gap. So instead of going for a fortress-based design, what we have is a bunker-based design. The attack surface for these servers is so small that the possibility of some hacker breaking in is very low. So that's where we bring in the value over a standard x86 platform. And then what we have is that we integrate this with our unified management tools like the OneView or tools like HP Sum. Okay, so you don't have to. This mission critical server needs not to be an isolated island sitting in your data center. It can be managed to the same framework. I think I hope I've answered your question here.
I hope so, sir. I'm sure you have answered that. Thank you for that. Seeing the clock ticking by, quickly taking one last question here. One of our attendees asked, what are the bandwidth limitations on network security for supported devices?
I don't think that's relevant to our discussion. Could you just repeat? Maybe I'll try to see if I can answer that.
Sure, sir. The question is, what are the bandwidth limitations on network security for supported devices?
So if this question relates to something like a fraud detection or cyber analytics, I think what I can say is that, see, now most of the organizations today have various network security solutions already in place. But then the challenge that these network security solutions today have is that because the data is getting pumped from various channels and various domains of the organization, and then loaded into some form of database like a Splunk or something. Right? So those databases are not able to manage them in real-time operations. So what you need today is something like an in-memory environment where you can actually put this whole data into one single memory and then do the operations, and something like a graph operation, which graph operation would need a lot of memory to actually do fraud detection or cyber analytics. So then to effectively do something like maybe a typical HPC cluster, if you're doing graph analysis, would typically may need almost 3 to 4 hours for certain analysis, which by the time the fraud has already happened and the person has actually run away, right? Or similarly, the hack has happened and the damage is done. So what you need is an in-memory system which can do this operation in minutes or seconds, so that you can go and catch the guy or stop the damage.
Sure, sir. Leaving the Q&A round with one last question with a grandeur side, the attendees ask, is HPE the leading infrastructure provider for SAP HANA deployment? SAP HANA deployment, apologies.
Yeah. So that's a good question. As I shared, Gartner has been releasing this deployment reports consistently for the last couple of years, and HP has been able to maintain almost 40% market share through this through these reports. So we've got the right kind of solutions, whether you're looking for smaller deployments, maybe through 2 TB, 3 TB system, or maybe a 24 terabyte system. HP's got the solutions. Whether you're looking for TDI based requirements or whether you're looking for appliance based requirement, HP's got the solutions. Whether you're looking for a composable system, or whether you're looking for a unified management solution, or whether you're looking for something like an in-memory solution with the persistent memory. So we are probably, I'm not sure, but probably I think we are the only organization or the OEM in the country who've actually delivered SAP HANA solutions using persistent memory to their customers. So with this kind of, and not only that, we back it up with one of the key things that customers may tend to miss out in any SAP HANA or any Oracle environment is the clustering solution, because what you need is that you need to have a clustering solution which is application aware, which is directly supported by the hardware OEM, because the integration that the cluster software has with the hardware is key to the ability of that software to deliver a seamless experience, an automatic failover, and completely removing all the planned downtime activities. Now this with ServiceGuard, we are able to deliver to our customers, and it is managed by HP directly. So there's no going back or dependency on somebody like the server OS operating system OEM, right, to give an overall ecosystem and then an overall RPO RTO for the customer. Okay, so this is very unique to HP.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for that insightful session and that Q&A round too. Dear attendees, we have tried to answer all our questions from our side. In case anything is left, you can reach out to ETCIO or HPE through any of our online and digital channels. Thank you, Mr. Guy, again. I'm equally grateful for all our attendees for being with us here today. Have a great day ahead and stay safe.
Thank you, Ria, and thank you all the attendees.